What up, YouTube? Oh man, it's been so long! It's been so long! Where have I been? I know, I've been busy. But guess what? I am back with some new art, with a new intro, which you're about to see in just a few moments, right before we get into the video. I just want to say I'm sorry that I've been away, but I am here now, and we got a new video for you. A video that you guys have been waiting for! Another top 10 video. And today, we are going to be checking out the top 10 most underrated Sega Genesis games. Enjoy! Strider. Oh man, Strider, what a game this was. Strider is one hell of a hack and slash platform game. Created back in 1989 by Capcom, this game set a new bar for what makes a solid platformer. Originally, this game was released in Japan as an arcade game. Strider is set in a dystopian future with a wide range of settings that affect the gameplay. Sega released it just 1 year later on, that's right, the Sega Genesis, and oh boy was I happy to have this game. It took me months to get through this game as a kid. I found it to be extremely challenging, but the snappy and intuitive controls made it very easy to keep playing. Believe it or not, Strider's gameplay was a major influence on a few major video game franchises, those being the Ninja Gaiden, Devil May Cry, and God of War franchises. When you have games of those caliber taking inspiration from Strider, I don't have to be the one to tell you how amazing this game really was. Well, that and the fact that it's a Capcom game should tell you everything you need to know about this game, really. If you haven't checked out Strider yet, I strongly advise you give it a shot. You won't regret it. The Adventures of Mighty Max is going to be a shocker for many people watching this video. Reasoning being that this game has actually not been accepted very well by other content creators. The Adventures of Mighty Max's reviews were subpar when compared to other games for the Sega Genesis. With that being said, I'm here to shed some light on a title that I actually loved playing. The Adventures of Mighty Max is advertised as a side-scrolling action game based on the cartoon series Mighty Max, but this game is far from an action game, and I believe the genre better suited for this title is a side-scrolling puzzle game. Once you remove the idea of this game being an action game and embrace that each level is created around this puzzle aspect, you will soon start to realize where this game shines. Yes, the controls are janky, and the enemies can get tedious at times, but it adds a difficulty to the game that makes the timer feel like an actual threat. I personally feel this game is extremely underrated, and anyone who feels this game was a failure should give it another shot. Just keep an open mind and get lost in the puzzle. Biohazard Battle. Now I admit this is a strange one. Biohazard Battle was originally released in Japan under the name Crying Asuma Sensu. Biohazard is a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up released for the Sega Genesis, but it doesn't stop there. On February 26, 2007, it was made available on the Nintendo Wii's Virtual Console. And now, even more surprisingly, the game was also released on Steam on October 26 of 2010. Yes, you heard me correctly, guys. You have access to play this game right now on PC, so now you have no excuse to not check it out. So why is it on this list, you may ask? It made it to the Wii and Steam, so it must be popular, right? Wrong. There's only 4 reviews on Steam, and it's only 99 cents. Oh, and guess what? All positive. Now, let's move on to why I enjoyed this game so much. For one, the difficulty drove this game. When I was younger, I never beat this game, but I have countless hours trying. On top of the challenging and fun gameplay, the soundtrack hits hard. Something about that unnerving, bassy, hard-hitting soundtrack adds to the pressure and difficulty of each level. The different playstyles the game offers is also a huge reason to why I love this game. You get to choose from 3 playable characters, and on top of that, you get power-ups that alter the way you will be attacking or defending from the entourage of enemies coming your way. Give the game a shot and let's see more Steam reviews. I would love to see that my video influenced the viewers enough to bring light to this hidden gem. Vectorman. This game may not seem very underrated at first, especially since this game is on a list for the top 10 best Sega Genesis games of all time. But when you ask yourself questions like, why is it number 10 on that list? Why did it die after Sega Genesis if it was such a loved title? Why do people need to be reminded of the game to even remember its existence? And then you start to realize how underrated this game actually is. Yes, the game has found its way across a wide range of consoles for re-releases, but that doesn't help the fact that the franchise itself has died and didn't continue to release. In fact, there was a third title planned for Vectorman that was cancelled and would have been released on the Sega Saturn. Vectorman was what I like to call a title with character. People who grew up on this game became very attached to the character. The way you can interact with the character before the game even starts on the Sega screen gave life to this character as more than just a controller. Vectorman was a typical run-and-gun platformer, but stuck out for reasons that make a title popular, like character design, personality, soundtracks, and game flow. The game was very snappy and intuitive, and always worked the way you needed it to. Vectorman also possesses the ability to transform through the use of power-ups, which is very far ahead of its time. Giving the players a completely new way of experiencing the character with transforms is something you didn't see much of at the time. I guess what I'm trying to say is Vectorman is underrated for different reasons. Vectorman is underrated because it deserves way more than it received. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Hyperstone Heist, better known as the arcade game Turtles in Time's younger brother. By younger brother, I don't mean easier, by the way. Even though the game had less levels than Turtles in Time, it made up for it in level length and difficulty. When I say makes up for it in difficulty, I mean damn this game was hard. Good hard, that is. Not only was the enemy AI more aggressive, but the gameplay itself received an increase in speed. I was unable to beat this game as a solo when I was younger. Even with 2 people, it took months. I remember countless hours of me and my father getting really far into the game, only to be hit with that game over and being forced to start from the beginning. I don't know about you guys, but that consequence for losing and being sent back to the beginning of the entire game is something we are really missing in games today. It forced you to have to learn and adapt quickly, and it added an entire different level of pressure, knowing that death is a very important component to the game that you want to avoid at all costs. If you were looking for a good old school arcade style side-scrolling beat 'em up, you will not go wrong here. Batman Forever was such an interesting game. I gotta admit, there may be some bias to why this game is on this list, because I have replayed it, and the controls are odd, the combat was subpar, and it feels kinda slow. But still, after all of this time, I enjoyed playing it again. Nostalgia maybe, but I think it has more to do with the experience. Even though the game felt odd, it played as intended and offered a one-of-a-kind experience. Overcoming each level was extremely challenging as well as intriguing. This game does not hold your hand at all. You will get lost and you will not know where to go at times, but I believe that's what made the game good. You are rewarded for exploring and using your gadgets. For a majority of the game, you are forced to use gadgets like your grappling hook or grenades to proceed, and I admit that it can be frustrating. But when you finally find that next step, it always feels like you stumbled upon an Easter egg, which is why I find the game so intriguing. I have an honest confession. I have never beaten this game, but that never stopped me from coming back. Let's end this off with a fun fact. Acclaim used motion capture technology to animate the sprites in this game. Can you believe that? Motion capture in a Sega Genesis game? That's crazy to me. Anyway, I expect this game to be a spicy subject in the comments section, so go ahead and say what you want. I'm curious. Disney's Aladdin. Oh man, you already know right off the bat we were getting a good soundtrack. Disney always has us covered with some bangers. Aside from the soundtrack, this game's animations felt ahead of its time. It seemed like every animation in this game was made with extreme detail, Disney's Aladdin was released on November of 1993, and believe it or not, it was one of the best-selling Sega Genesis games with 4 million copies sold. You're probably wondering how it ended up on an underrated list then, right? Well, those numbers are exactly why this game is on this list. For a game that sold 4 million copies, you would think it would be on the list of top 10 greatest Sega Genesis games of all time, but it's not. And why? I'm not sure exactly, because when you talk about what makes a good platformer, this game has it all. Fun platforming, collectibles, short and long range attacks, banging soundtrack, minigames, and power-ups. Now I know some people will find Aladdin on a top 10 list somewhere. It is inevitable, because like Vectorman, when it comes to this game, it's another one of those should have received more recognition than it did titles. The fact that the studio pitched a second Aladdin game around the same time that the Amiga game Stardust was pitched and the project was scrapped tells you everything you need to know about how underrated this game was. Anyway, we're coming down to our top 3 videos on this list. If you made it this far, I want you to pause the video and comment below what game you believe is deserving of one of the top 3 spots. I'll give you a little bit of time. Alright, let's see if your game made it on this list. PacMan 2: The New Adventures. I bet no one's seen this coming up. But if you did, I think we would get along pretty well. For those of you who do not know this game, let me explain with just 3 words. Point and click. What? No, he did not just say point and click. Yes, actually, yes I did. That is right, I put a point and click game in the top 3 of my list. Got a problem with it? Then leave. Nah, listen up. Don't knock it until you try it. In PacMan 2: The New Adventures, you will find yourself developing a connection with PacMan in a way that you've never experienced in a game before. You will yell at him, you will praise him, you will argue with him, you will feel for him, and he will make you feel pretty damn guilty for actions if you do anything wrong. In all seriousness, this game really knows how to build a highly interactive character. I will say, PacMan can be a little stubborn at times, and he will make you angry, but relationships always come with some drawbacks, right? Alright, enough of the jokes. This game will send you on a journey you won't forget. It is going to be very challenging. You will want to give up, but the more you stick around the downs, you will find ups, and it's worth it. Overcoming the issues with a character you can't even control feels very rewarding. What you can expect if you decide to give the game a shot is a story-based trial and error puzzle game. Every decision you make can lead to different outcomes, and some of those outcomes can set you back while others will move you forward. It's up to you to think about the aspects of the game you experienced earlier that could be helpful now that you have moved forward in the story. I do not suggest looking up any guides if you haven't played this before. It's best you go in blind and enjoy your new adventure. Tiny Toon Adventures: Buster's Hidden Treasure is taking the number 2 spot on this list, and it's one of the titles that is very special to me, because this is probably my most played game on the Sega Genesis. Tiny Toon Adventures at first seems like a child's game, but I promise it is anything but. This game took obvious inspiration from Sonic and Mario series, but it did it so well. The controls are very comfortable, especially for such a fast-paced platformer game. I will go as far to say that I enjoy the feel of this game even over Sonic. Now that says a lot, considering I have a Sonic tattoo on my arm. Every level feels different. The game offers a nice variety of enemies and has awesome boss battles. Not to mention, just like I said with Aladdin, the soundtrack in this game is a banger. Okay, I admit that may just be the nostalgia speaking because it does tend to loop a decent amount. Either way, you don't see this title being mentioned very often. Matter of fact, you never hear this title being mentioned, and that really sucks because it is worth some recognition. You can search any gameplay videos of this game and you will find thousands of comments speaking highly of this game. Unfortunately, I believe I know why the Tiny Toon video game series ended, and we won't be seeing any future games in this style. They did continue the Tiny Toon IP, but drastically changed the genre and playstyle. In 2001, they released Tiny Toon Adventures Plucky's Big Adventure, and it was a horrifically developed game. Definitely does not stand up to the game like this. It saddens me to see the potential here and watch it die to poor judgment and developers. At least we still have this game, and I'm sure you will enjoy Buster's Hidden Treasure if you haven't tried it already. If you have made it this far, I want to thank you for listening to me blabber on about my favorite childhood memories and nostalgia. If this is something you enjoy, give the video a thumbs up. It really helps me get my content out there more, as well as inspires me to continue making videos just like this. We have finally made it to the #1 spot on this list, and today, taking the #1 spot, we have the game World of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. This game brings me back to an era in video games that just hits different. This game was an artful masterpiece that showcased the difference between a game and a work of art. The levels felt enchanting, the world was interactable, the attention to detail on a Sega Genesis game was surprising, and the co-op play this game offered was a blast. The devs made sure this game was filled with character, and it really does feel like you're playing an interactive cartoon. The controls are simple, yet just right. The platforming can be challenging, as well as puzzling with the help of the interactive world. Every moment in this game feels unique, and unlike other platformers at the time, it never feels like you were just replaying the same old content through the entire game. Not to mention the soundtrack being spot on. They definitely didn't cut any corners here. The boss fights are also made extremely well considering the basic control scheme. To mix up the gameplay, they added fun transitional levels like flying a magic carpet and riding a leaf floating through a water-filled treacherous cave. I am proud to say that I was able to beat this game, and I enjoyed every single moment of it. I promise if you give this game a shot, you will understand why this is taking the #1 spot on this list. Unlike my other top 10 videos, I will be providing some extra content for those wanting to stick around. Next, we have some honorable mentions that I believe are also some underrated gems worth checking out. Finally, I just want to say thank you to everyone who commented on my previous top 10 videos and pushed me to make another one. These videos are not easy to make and take a lot of planning, editing, and research. In order to make sure the content I'm providing is quality, I put the time in, because at the end of the day, all I want is to make sure you, the viewer watching this right now, are receiving the best experience every time you visit my channel. I have contemplated starting a Patreon. I haven't yet because I don't want to be paid unless I can provide something aside from my videos in return. If I do start a Patreon, the sole purpose would be to hopefully someday do this full time and have the ability to provide videos of this quality on the regular. If you have any ideas for what would be some good Patreon incentives, I am open to all ideas. Until then, I will continue to put out my videos at a pace that works around my job and social life. I do read every one of your comments, so I am looking forward to hear from you all. With that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and hit that subscribe button if you don't want to miss out on future content. Until next time.